All right, cool. We have started this at the time I prefer to do it, and looks like we're going to be able to pull it off. So, I've mentioned before, I have a low opinion of cable networks because a lot of the people who run them are just kind of, they tend to be on the side of just playing an angle to get ratings, which is why you actually have had journalists come out and admit that whenever Trump leaves, they expect to have a downpouring in ratings, and they give him all this coverage partially because he's in the White House, but also because they know it gets him a lot of coverage. Or as far as ratings, people like to tune into that kind of stuff. Sir says, "Fine, hello, finally a stream I can make it to." Yeah, I only had one person show up to one from yesterday, and he had to go do something, and that's all. That's cool. It's fine. It's all good. I am working, so won't be able to watch much. Well, I don't expect for this to be that long. I just wanted to bring up this really stupid story with a known clown. So Scarborough, the host of Morning Joe on MSNB crap, as I like to call it, uh, said in response to Epstein's death, a guy who had information that would have destroyed rich and powerful men's lives ends up dead in his jail cell. How predictably Russian. Now, we all know about the basics of Russiagate, the idea that Russians were responsible for, or at least contributed to, the election results. And I've said before, I think it's a really stupid story because unless you can prove that they changed votes, it's kind of like whatever. To me, anyway, a lot of people like to pay attention to it. But really think about this critically. He wants you to believe that Putin or one of his soldiers, the various members of the Russian government, were able to somehow sneak into Epstein's jail cell in between the few hours that whatever amount of time he wasn't being checked, and kill him, or they had some like multi-country conspiracy where the guards were paid by Russians to, like, I guess, look the other way for a couple of hours while they took care of the dirty work. Splendora, who I have not seen in a very long time, says Russia has no reason to want Epstein dead. They would love for the chaos that would have come from the fall of a trial. Yeah, that's my point. That, like, I was going to get to that as well, but the other issue here is, what do they have to gain from him being deceased? Like, what does he have information on Putin that's incriminating? As far as world leaders are concerned, from what I remember of the information I've been briefed on, other than Trump, the only other person who's been in a global position of power he was affiliated with was Clinton, who is not in power in Russia or in the US anymore. So, there's really no reason to even suspect this. Uh, Ruben says Booker and Beto are grandstanding again. Also, Splendora person is right. Yeah. Um, but Ruben, do you mean they're grandstanding by, like, the gun control stuff, or by this? Because I know, like I told you before, O'Rourke has really been pushing, all this, like, rhetoric about Trump so he can save his dying presidential campaign. Like, this shooting has turned into a really glorious thing for him, and it's really sickening because the way to actually address this is to say, we've had all of these new, supremacist attacks. I'm not going to sit here and try to tie Trump to it, but we need to hold him accountable when it comes to issuing some sort of legislative response that can make it through Congress. He doesn't do that. He goes, "The Trump is the reason Trump put the gun in the man's arm and fired," and blah, 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 blah. So he's fallen off. He won't be around for too much longer. I think he'll be like, he's basically going to be the way that Biden was in 2008, where he runs and he's like there all the way up until the first state, and then he's out. Splendor says, actually, he also apparently had had dirt on some prince or something. Can't recall what country it was. Oh, yeah, I can't think of it either. I was getting that story mixed up with another one where there was some woman who was claiming to be part of a sex trafficking thing where she was made to uh, acquiesce to Prince William or some global conspiracy push. But it's kind of funny because we had this whole discussion about how Crystal Ball from the Rising, so on this website, The Hill, how she basically compared MSNBC to Infowars because they've been pushing this RussiaGate thing for literally years at this point, and you know, effectively creating all this. Like Jimmy Dore, for example, said that they have the new version of McCarthyism, where it's a bunch of people who are supposed to be in a respected position, like a journalist, but also most importantly, they're supposed to be the main people who are looking into things and proofreading and making sure the information is correct. And instead of actually doing their jobs, as it pertains to accuracy, they're trying to get ratings. And it's really stupid because, they're going to, whatever I get on here, whether I get four people in here now or three or two or one, they're always going to have me or anyone else on YouTube beat 10 times as hard. So, there's really, they're not losing anything by not covering this other than a couple more glimpses. And isn't that kind of disturbing that you have to talk about, not even like forget the political stuff, right? They have to talk about this one issue every single night to get people to tune into their nonsense. Ruben says Trump made some statement that implied Clinton was responsible for Epstein. Oh yeah, and then Clinton's one of his spokesman asked if they had invoked the 25th Amendment yet. Okay, and Booker, Beto, and also Jake Tapper called him out for making conspiracy theories. Well, yeah, that's kind of. I mean, Trump is sort of like he's been known for years for being a conspiracy theorist. Like whether it's the Obama wasn't born in the U.S. thing. I mean, I don't even like that warmonger, but I'll admit in 2 seconds he was born here. That's not exactly something to really be confused about. Or saying that Cruz's dad was involved in the assassination of JFK, or that vaccines cause mental illness, or that when the noises of windmills cause cancer. Splendora says, I don't know what happened to Epstein, but it is very suspicious that he was removed from suicide watch and the camera went down while the guards were on shift change in the same 10 minutes. And after that, he was found dead. Well, here's the position I would take if, because I'm not the most well versed person on this man. He just was someone I heard about in the news a couple of times a year. And, that was that. Uh, they should have an investigation, and after that we can just kind of say whatever. I mean, the issue here is that every time people start doing the conspiracy theory stuff, like with the JFK conspiracy theories, it turns out to kind of be, the bottom line is the person is dead, this event still happened, whether it was this person or that group, we still got the same result. About what people said being a mess. Wait, about what people said Epstein being a Mossad agent? Okay, I'm confused. I don't know what that means. You're gonna have to elaborate a little bit more, Ruben. You're catching me in a weak moment. Let's see, Mossad and Israel Secret Service. Oh, well, I don't think he was, but whatever. And like again, what's the basis for thinking that? Also, I'll be the first one to admit I'm not entirely versed in the different names of all the various members of government. Let me so Mark. He said he's in the house. I guess he's in his own home, so that would be accurate. Can't just come in here and just say hello. Like, no, no, I'm in the house. Like he's throwing his hands up. Like it's some big, huge event. Splendor says no idea. I never heard that theory. I just knew what Moses from NCIS. Oh, one of those television watchers. I didn't know Splendor was so well versed in his terminology. I'll make sure to give his age in the ring so he can inform me of some other concepts and definitions I can practice on and be aware of as well. I can add to my jar of trivia. And it's just so much stuff that people learn about that doesn't even matter. Mark says, I can't believe I missed your live show, damn it. Oh, yeah, well, like I said, I gave you the time for it. And what was funny is I actually did it. I think that was the most because I always say it's going to be at 6 p.m. on Saturday Pacific Standard Time. It actually was. It was like 2 or 3 minutes after that I started, and I made sure it was because I scarfed down some food right before I started to, so I wouldn't have to get up or move around. I was so disappointed to not see you, and then Ruben showed up at the last moment. Like I was getting ready to turn it off, and then a minute before, like as I said to everybody, hey, any last comments? There he is. It just pops up. Okay, Ruben says Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend, Charlene Maxwell. Am I getting this woman? Who cares what her name is? Maxwell, who is also accused of helping Epstein with his crimes. Her billionaire dad was known to be an actual Mossad agent. What was it? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Um, there's actually a really big, and this is not off topic, or at least it still is on the topic of father-in-laws of people. There's this weird thing of like the father of the wife or the significant other of a man having like some kind of big role as far as I explain this. Like for example, the guy that ran with Clinton, right, for her when she ran for president, Kane, his wife's father, so his father-in-law was the governor of Virginia several decades ago. So just that same kind of thing. Also, O'Rourke's wife has her dad is like some kind of uh, business owner, some really significant businessman. I'm forgetting what it is, but you get my point. That there's like a correlation of people's father-in-laws, like having some kind of connection to something that makes it really interesting outside of like the just the basics of who that person is. It's all that familial stuff. So I guess that's probably where that Israel theory is coming from. Because I can't imagine Netanyahu was like, I'm going to get Epstein to go and do this with me. No, it had to be somebody else. And that's probably what they're alluding to. It seems like with most of these conspiracy theories, they have like one little slight clue of something and it just like pops off. I mean, I've seen people write all kind of weird stuff on Twitter. And, that's kind of a big deal for me because I don't go on there anymore since they, you know, did what they did to my account. So, uh, it's more stupid stuff. But Scarborough is so funny in that he actually has an entire 2 or 3 years of his career now, thanks to Russia. Like I think sometimes I wonder if Clinton won that election. Like just imagine that conspiracy wouldn't exist. And you remember Trump actually in the days leading up to that election being over or taking place was saying how it was going to be rigged and how they had people registered to vote that have been dead for 10 years. Uh, so if that had happened, we wouldn't have Russiagate because people would be satisfied or at least not, trying to like blame a foreign country for why the election went to the person they didn't like or whatever. Bunch of crybabies. Man, it was the most surreal thing in the world to like actually see people crying when Trump got elected and me just sitting back like, yeah, you screwed over Sanders in the primary. This is what you get. Like two separate worlds, man. Ruben says Kevin Spacey and Charlie Rose took trips to Epstein's islands. Yeah, he was. Well, that's what I was saying. That he was affiliated with all these people. But that's why I was also trying to say earlier, and I kind of lost this thought. A lot of these wealthy people are just as criminal minded as regular people or those who are considered poor, but they have more resources to do their evil bidding. I mean, like we've had so I told you about the offshore bank accounts where people will literally stash millions of dollars overseas so that when they have to file for taxes, they can claim that they only have, let's say, 2 million when they actually have like five or six. See, stuff like that is fraud and it's a crime. But because they're rich and they know it's going to be some, they can afford some great, wonderful lawyers to maneuver their way around the system, they get away with it. And the same thing with Epstein. If he was a regular guy trying to like have some little girls in his apartment or whatever, would have been caught in a year, 2 years. But hey, powerful connections can lead to, some decades long creep getting away with his fetish for, some huge period of time. Ruben says, do you still remember that woman screaming in the street because Trump won? It sounds familiar. I don't know if I remember the exact story, but I think I could have heard of it at some point. Splendor says, remember how the Democrats were saying that if Trump lost, his followers would not accept the results, implying that their side would accept the outcome, just saying. Well, that's my thing that, people only start hollering stuff when it's convenient to them. That's why when we were sitting over here talking about how basically, if you are a Sanders supporter, you get called a conspiracy theorist for saying the primary was rigged. But the people who supported Clinton and actually like her or think she would have been great or whatever, when they go around and say that Russia was the reason the election went the way it did, they expect you not to think the exact same thing of them. So they can call you, you know, derogatory terms, but if you do the same thing back, oh my God, what sacrilege! And that's how ridiculous they are. Scarborough's no different. Only difference between him and any of these idiots writing on Twitter is that he's on a TV show and was in Congress at one point, which should scare the hell out of everybody. That someone who isn't even bright enough to figure out that whether you like it or not, and whether Russia, influenced the election or not, Trump won more electoral votes than Clinton did, which made him the winner of the election happen. Like that's a person who was able to influence public policy for a number of years in Congress. That is freaky. Splendor says hypocrisy, the name is Hillary Clinton supporter. Oh yeah, they have all kind of weird things they like to do. Like how they got mad at people for saying never Hillary, but now they're going around saying never Bernie. It's like, yeah, you guys copy us all. And then they would like I think I told you I went on Twitter and I only saw one Hillary supporter or one self-described Clinton supporter actually talk about policy. And I said, so that means that all these people who hate Sanders do not hate him for anything he's actually for. They're just butthurt that he didn't let them have a boring primary and think that that somehow made like basically if he didn't run, all of us would have amnesia from all the years that Clinton was doing horrible stuff as Secretary of State and Senator and just cast a ballot for her. Let's see. Well, if you're popular with the public, you can get away with almost everything. Yeah, that too, Mark. Whenever the public image is actually really, I mean, we if you guys want to get an example of something like that, we can go to the OJ thing where remember in the Bronco, everybody holding up the signs, "Go Juice, go." That's another example of that. You know, it's like you guys have an accused killer here, and whatever. We're not going to get into that whole case right now, but because they like them playing some ball games, they're cheering for him like it's a game as he's evading officers and doing something that whether you like it or not, or whether you think he did or not, was illegal. Ruben says Trump and both Clintons were friends with Epstein. That's what I was saying. That like birds of a feather flock together. So Clinton and Trump might not be as horrible, but they're still crappy people, and we know that through their tenures. and the various policies that they're doing. And I'm not even talking about, because you know how they are. They always think that you're talking about some domestic issue or some comment somebody made. It's like, no, look at all these countries we've been bombing and all these innocent people we've killed overseas. And then you're surprised when the people who have no problem going to bed at night while they murder innocents because they love their little drones are friends with creeps that are scummy as much as them, except they don't have the same kind of, you know, governmental powers. Like, no, it all makes sense that these people would like each other because they have no conscience. They're just empty suits who happen to have more money than regular people and use it for their own self interest and whatnot. Let me see how long Scarborough was in Congress. I want to see how many years the U.S. had to endure that conspiracy theorist serving in office. How long that hellhole dragged on for. 95 to 2001. And Florida put him in there. I can't believe Florida would do that. Actually, I can't believe they're the same state that elected Rick Scott, the governor who sat in office and didn't do anything after multiple mass shootings occurred up until Parkland, senator. So the same year that happened. So it would make sense that it would be over there. Um, so that's like what, 5 years that he did. Okay, Ruben says, but both Trump and Clinton are known perverts and have made really crappy comments before. Well, yeah, that's why it's so weird that people try to act like Trump is some kind of difference from the norm when you consider the fact that we literally had an entire election cycle, the 2008 one, where Clinton got in trouble multiple times for running his mouth. Like when he compared Obama to Jesse Jackson. Like, see, that's the kind of stuff where when you know that that person was in the what, whether they were president at the time or not, it already has been established that just because someone was in the highest office doesn't mean they know how to speak without having a teleprompter in front of them. Let's see. Splendor says Trump ran in the same circle as Epstein and met him at some parties, and one time was on the same plane as Epstein, but never went to. Splendor called it pedophile island and had a falling out with Epstein well before his dirt came to light. Oh my god. That caught me off guard because I was reading that like that was the actual name of the place. So imagine when you go to that island, the first vehicle you see is like a black van, and there's some guy in the back, and you're like, "Hey, come in here, get some candy." Just make sure you have your license so we can prove you're under 18 or underage or whatever. It'll be all perfect. Oh my god, that's terrible. Okay, no dirt came to light. Well, look, I'm not trying to mention Trump's connection with him to like implicate him in any of this crap because I'm aware of the fact that they stopped talking to each other multiple years before any of this stuff took place. All I'm saying is there's a very consistent and recurring tendency among the wealthier individuals to align themselves with people who are also wealthy that do really disgusting things and happen to get away with it more than a regular person would because they're rich. It's as simple as that. Trump's not the only person doing it, or wasn't the only person who did it. And just because he was affiliated with him at the time doesn't mean he should, be like. That's why I don't like the media because they take things that don't matter and they blow it up. Like we had David Duke endorse Tulsi, and oh my God, she must be a supremacist. And then she disavows it, and they're so slick that they take a screenshot of his tweet rather than the tweet itself, so that you can't see where she disavows him. Or the same thing with Yang. He had nationalists supporting him, and he said, I don't understand. I don't get it. Maybe they just like my policies because again, nothing in his platform is actually addressing the issue. So They'd rather look at the fact that these basically he's getting blamed or he got blamed for what someone else decided to do just by happenstance. Hell, look what they did to Gravel. They tried to. I think he was on Infowars once. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but they tried to go after him for like I guess believing that 9/11 was an inside job, and you know this is what I'm talking about. Where just any comments you make or any people it just all comes back to bite you in the most ridiculous of ways. Ruben says, meanwhile, Biden supported citizen actual power, and mainstream media isn't bothered from it. Yeah, I was kind of. It was really funny to sit there and watch them talk about his stuff for like maybe a day or two or a few days or whatever. And then the Trump stuff is just back to back, back to back. It's like you got the Democratic front runner talking about his affiliations with segregationists, and you're not going to tell us anything about those men, about, why he made this comment, about the reactions of part. I mean, this is the guy who is, whether you like him or not, and I don't, polling in first place for the Democratic nomination. And you would think a big story about some comments he made barely got any coverage. I'm actually seeing more coverage for the gaff with the poor kids can be just as good as white ones or something, where he was giving a speech and he made that mistake, and they're covering that a little bit more. So I don't know, maybe they're learning. One can only hope. Spondora says, yeah, but Clinton went to the island around 40 times that we know about, and Hillary went there as well. I think it was like 20 times, speaking from memory, infinitely more than Trump's 0 trips. Well, I don't know who you're addressing, but I never tried to implicate Trump for his relationship with this guy, and I admitted earlier that he had stopped talking to him before any of these charges came out. So I don't know who you're addressing there. I hope it isn't me. I've tried to be very fair and balanced, like Fox News. I can only hope this position of mine has been appreciated on your extent, Spandora. Does anyone have anything else left to say? Are we going to wrap this up soon or what? Because I know Mark is trying to go back to bed. He took a little nap, and we all know the Spandora is he's very busy. That's why he only shows up like every 30 streams. Hey Mark, you're gonna do the salute, huh? It would be funny if you were like you said that, and then right after you put Führer, because remember all the Hitler comparisons people are making. The great thing about that emoji is that it's so far away from me that I can't even see the details of it. It's just this little yellow circle, as ambiguous as possible. What about Hillary? Wait, is that who you were talking about? Well, she's not here. I mean, I could pull up her Twitter account, but I don't want to. I'm resting, feeling a little sick today. Well, I hope you feel better, Mark. On behalf of the chat, I hope you feel better. Mm. Oh, Hillary Clinton. Yeah. Imagine she comes out one day and she has like a little gold mustache, like right there. It actually, if unless she dyes it would be like brown or like dark, some dark type of color, because that's her original hair color. That's the most amusing part. It would match his. Oh my god. There's some other celebrity there. His name flashed really quickly. Uh, that is talking about the Clinton body count or whatever. Stuff is really stupid, man. People are just can't just have an investigation. No, we have to rely on those wonderful internet detectives. scooping everything out. And look, I'm not the one of those kinds of people who thinks that if it comes from online, it automatically is inaccurate. But it just happened, and they can't even start an investigation without having all these different conspiracy theories forwarded. Like almost 2 seconds after the guy was confirmed to have died. Oh, it was really this. No, it was him. No, it was you. It was you. Like, relax. Because I told you before, my one of my guiding philosophies is the idea that when someone dies, I give them the same amount of attention I would have given them in life. So I didn't care about Epstein when he was alive. Don't care about him now. They could find out every single thing that happened, and it still would make no difference. I just think Scarborough was really dumb for that comment he made, which is why I did the stream. Because I, it's incomprehensible. Like someone that's that mentally uh, impaired was able to get elected to Congress over and over again and have a show that's been going for years. Like, what the hell? And I've seen his show. I've watched it. It's not interesting. He's not funny. Nothing. Just oh my god. People let some of the most uncharismatic, non-engaging characters get propped up. It's so bizarre. Like before, we were saying that Trump is funny. He's amusing. If he's not reading the teleprompter, he can entertain a crowd and keep them engaged with every start. Like Scarborough has none of that. So, like, what other than the fact that he was in Congress allowed him to get a show that has gone on for multiple years? Splendora says, anyway, yeah, while the Clintons had the motive to kill Epstein, many other wealthy politicians and Hollywood types also have a motive too. Hashtag Clinton body count can't really be applied yet. Oh, go watch that documentary where like you would think they're like the most governmentally successful. I don't even know if that's a real word. They're the most successful in government serial killers of all time. Like they attribute so much stuff to them in that documentary. Oh my god. Always trying to freak somebody out. Okay, though they are still less nuts than the people that started Trump body count hashtag with. Yeah, I don't think he had anything to do with it. I don't buy that. God, it's like every time somebody dies, we start the conspiracy theory stuff to the point where it doesn't even make sense. Like, oh yeah, Reagan getting shot was a conspiracy theory that was perpetuated by the older Bush. It's like, why would he want to get on the ticket with this guy and then like what? Stuff like that is stupid. I just remembered now. Ehud, man, what is that name? Former Prime Minister of Israel. Oh, I know who that is. Who was also friends with Jeffrey Epstein and took trips to his fellow islands. A big supporter of Netanyahu's Khan opposition. I can't pronounce that name. I know, like I've heard of that prime minister before, but the name is not working for me. So at least with Clinton body count, they actually have a motive to want him. Yeah, they have motive to want a lot of people deceased. You know, they're really disgusting characters. At least Hillary is. Bill is to not as much of an extent, but he's also problematic. Oh yeah, also that Syria video did a lot better than I thought it would. I was like, oh, that thing's only gonna get like 10 or 20 views, and they got like almost 70. It's like, wow. Pronounce Ilhood. All right, so Ilhood Barak. So, man, the only prime minister of Israel I care about is like actually like is Yitzhak Rabin. All the other ones, it's whatever. That's because he was the one trying to actually have peace. and then they murdered him. Douchebags. Hey, it'd be funny if if I did like a whole video about like a top 10 list of people that deserve movies or like that deserve a movie made about them just throughout history. And then I give a reason for why they were so exceptional and whatnot. That'll be entertaining. At least I think so anyway. All right, I think we've pretty much hit the wall as far as things to add here. So if anyone has anything else left to say, speak now or forever hold your peace. Well, not forever, at least until Saturday. So outro time. Then Splendora, I haven't used that in months. That's how out of the loop you are. And I actually can't use it because I have some people here, and I don't want to have the such a vulgar rant be played here. It might pierce their ears, and they might want to, get in their safe space and whatnot. Yeah, he. Trying to have something else to add. As far as this little Epstein thing is concerned, they need an investigation. Whatever we get is probably going to be non-satisfactory to these conspiracy theorists. And even after the official one, it's going to be just like the Warren Commission. Even after they do it, they're still going to be like, I don't think so. Had to try. Well, no, I'm not against playing it. I can't because of the current circumstance. So you'll just have to play it in your head or go back to an earlier stream where I played it. Those are your two forms of recourse if you want to hear it again. Or was Ruben have anything else left to say? The star player. And further comments, concerns, inquiries, theories, speculation, nothing. He's really not even gonna type it. He's gonna let me just sit there waiting. And I'm gonna have to think of things to say while he continues to stare at the screen wordless. Like he's so wordless that he can't even say I don't know. I'm just picturing him staring at his keyboard, just with one of those like a little speech bubble with a question mark in it, and like sweating from the frustration of not knowing what to say. Which I was actually having that same problem because, like I said, I didn't upload any of the live stream from the week before last because it looked terrible. I was like, how in the world did that thing look decent when I was, just like sitting here and seeing the screen to straight garbage? That's like, man, the quality on it, the audio's good, video is not. Let's put it that way. So, and no one has anything left to say. We got 5 people in here. No one's gonna say anything. I am filling out an application online. Sorry, I'm multitasking. Talking to me. No, I was asking if any of the other people had any further comments to make before I ended the stream. I was trying to ensure that they were satisfied and act as a good host. Pardon me for attempting to ensure that all those in attendance had their various concerns met prior to my departure. I didn't realize that was such a garish request. There actually is someone who said they couldn't tell if I was joking with that, which is really disturbing because you can tell from the way it's said that it's not serious. I thought people only made that kind of mistake when you speak by text, where it makes a lot more sense because you can't hear the person's tone. But here you can, and they're still like, I hope you weren't getting mad. It's like, no, relax, calm down. So yeah, uh, okay. I at least am satisfied. It's not a biggie. I'm just multitasking, so wasn't sure if you were talking. It's fine. It's all right. It's a okay. You have my permission to multitask. Not like you need it anyway. So in conclusion, Epstein is deceased. Scarborough is an idiot, and we had an enjoyable stream. Thank you, and have a good day.